Witam serdecznie w kolejnym odcinku z gry Sherlock Holmes kontra Kuba Rozpruwacz. Z tej strony Nina i muszę powiedzieć, że przeniosłam grę na nowy komputer, który o dziwo zapisuje mi save'y póki co. Niemniej ustawienia tylko takie mogę mieć. Nie chcą wskoczyć te wysokie grafiki i jakieś tam wyświetlania wody, cienie. Nie chcę to wskoczyć, nie wiem. No będzie jak będzie wyglądało, trudno. Chcę skończyć tę serię po prostu i tyle. Więc lecimy. Dobra. Dutfield's Yard. Watson, ratuj. Czekaj, bo on tak biega. A poczekaj, to się nazywa jak? Whitechapel Street. To poczekaj, Whitechapel Street jest. Jak zrobili poruszanie się po mapie, to już mogliby zrobić jakieś, kurczę, mapy porządne, nie?
Excuse me, my good man.
You should return home, sir.
Ale mi, kurde, pomógł. To wygląda na ciekawe miejsce. A my szukamy.
I have no reason to go
No to
that
jak
way.
nie tu, to dokąd? Tu nie ma oznaczeń tych. Przepraszam.
Bucks Row.
Aha, tu. Bucks Row. To dużo mi nie pomogło. Przepraszam, muszę kota pogłaskać. Poczekaj, Bucks Row. Będzie tutaj narysowane to Bucks Row, że tu jest jakaś... Jak napisane to przekreślone. Kurde, nic nie widać na tym. Whitechapel Street. Czy to ma jakąś odnóżkę? Ojejku, tutaj ktoś już nie żyje. Nie, żyje, rusza się. Przepraszam bardzo.
I have nothing to ask.
No ja bym parę rzeczy by jej powiedziała.
Let's go to Dutfield's Yard. It's not far from the Wasp's Nest.
No to jest niedaleko Wasp's Nest. No to kurde, to jest... Czekaj, Wasp's Nest jest tu. To będzie w tę stronę, czy w tę stronę raczej nie? Ciemnica tu? O Jezu, nic nie widzę. Moment, muszę sobie podjaśnić. Maksymalnie podjaśniony ekran. A niestety będzie to tak wyglądać, jak wygląda. A poczekaj, może tu, na wprost może to miało być. Jakiś opis gdzieś, że tutaj jest jakaś... O, tu jeszcze ktoś mówi. Jak? Batty Street. To oczywiście. Może tu? Gdzie odbiegłam? Nie wiem, gdzie odbiegam. Tu jakieś dziecko siedzi. Uroczy XIX-wieczny Londyn. Gdzie jest jakieś, kurczę, etykietka na...
Here's the Workers'
Jest.
Club, next to Dutfield's Yard.
Dobra, klub...
On this poster is written, Club for Socialist Jews, the Cradle of Liberty. Interesting.
Dobra. A czego szukamy?
Dutfield's Yard.
O, tu. No dobra, to wchodzimy.
Your interrogation of P.C. Smith has proven to be very shrewd and of great interest. Thanks to the information I've managed to gather and that you were able to read in my notes in Baker Street, Watson, we can recreate what happened that fateful night at this location, Dutfield's Yard to be precise, the site of Liz Stride's murder.
Więc tak, mamy taki przedział. Pierwsza... A, konia muszę przenieść. Pierwsza w nocy pan Dimschutz chce wjechać w uliczkę furmanką ciągniętą przez kuca. To pierwsza w nocy była tu, jest tu.
1 a.m. Mr. Dimschutz wants to enter with his cars, but the pony refuses. We know that the murder took place between 12:45 and 1 a.m. Mr. Dimschutz, therefore, must have disturbed the killer.
0:45 w nocy. Izrael Schwarz ucieka, a wspólnik napastnika ściga go przez krótką chwilę, czyli tu.
12:45 a.m. Schwartz runs away, followed for a short distance by this man.
0:44 w nocy Izrael Schwarz przychodzi na drugą stronę ulicy, napastnik zauważa go i wykrzykuje Lipski.
12:44 a.m. Schwartz crosses to the other side of the road. The attacker sees him and yells, Lipski. The attacker must have shouted to his accomplice at the end of the road, the Lipski, indicating at Schwartz using his head in an attempt to scare off this undesirable.
Dobra, to już nie muszę. On to sam czyta, ja nie muszę czytać przecież. Holmes mnie wyręcza.
12:43 a.m. Israel Schwartz passes by Dutfield's yard and witnesses the attack on Liz Stride. (12:40 a.m. Eagle, the president of the club, enters the workers' club via the passageway through Dutfield's yard. He passed through Dutfield's yard. If Liz Stride had already been killed, he would have had to walk over her. The murder, therefore, had not yet happened.
I teraz tutaj mamy, dokładnie ustalimy sobie 33, 30 do 35. Do 35, czyli
12:30 to 12:35 a.m. Smith notices Liz Stride talking to the man with the package.
I tutaj mamy 20. A poczekaj, oni dokładnie, każdy miał tam zegarek, że tak dokładnie potrafili?
12:20 a.m. The American leaves the Socialists Club for some fresh air. The street is deserted.
I tu zakończenie o północy, zakończenie spotkania.
Midnight, the Socialist Club meeting ends. The members, mainly Jewish men, gradually begin to leave the club in little groups or alone. Let's place Liz Stride's murder on the timeline, Watson.
Nie, w ogóle jej tu nie, bo ona musiała być między tym a tym. Między 45, a tu nikogo nie było w tym czasie, więc teoretycznie musiała być tutaj zamordowana.
12:45 to 1 a.m. The murder of Liz Stride. It took place in this very spot, as the traces of blood were very confined. We will come back to this point in a few moments to elaborate on what could have happened. Well, we are still missing certain information in order to finish this investigation, Watson.
No to co tutaj?
Watson, imagine the victim laid down there on the ground.
Widzę. Wyobrażam sobie. Co robimy?
Her right hand, it is bloody, as is her wrist.
No może się chwyciło za szyję. Ale poczekaj, no wyjdź mi... Oj. To ma...
Her left hand, it is closed around a bag of pastils. Her left hand, it is closed around a bag of pastils. The throat, there is but one clean cut, slightly slanted downwards.
To coś tutaj, coś rozpięte, szyja, głowa, nic tu więcej nie ma. Poczekaj, bo tam coś sobie jakąś analizę zrobił. Ojej. Poczekaj, jeszcze raz. Jeszcze coś przegapiłam.
Her knees and dress, they are clean.
Poczekaj, i chciałam nie wejść w to, tylko w te... To była dedukcja? Tak. No to sobie na razie powkładamy tu wszystko. On tu sam powkłada. Zakrwawiona prawa ręka i nadgarstek. Arteria szyjna nie została przecięta. Ofiara krwawiła z nosa. Przełożyła rękę do gardła. I tu mamy wniosek, że... O cienkim ostrzu? Dobrze. Rana na szyi była czysta, zakończona, zaczyna się po prawej stronie, jest lekko ukośna ku dołowi, czyli po prawej. Ale po prawej? No to z lewą ręką zadany jest w takim razie. I cios z lewą ręką. I teraz morderca jest niezbyt silną osobą, morderca jest rywalem, morderca jest silną osobą. Nie wiem, co mi tu wychodzi z cuda. Widoczna jest tylko jedna śmiertelna rana. Morderca zadał cios z góry, od dołu, cios na wprost. A poczekaj, bo faktycznie może od wprost, to wtedy faktycznie od prawej to musiał stać wprost, jeżeli był praworęczny. A tutaj morderca jest oburęcznym z praworęcznym. Nie, jest oburęczny. Nie, leworęczny jest? Co ty mi tutaj opowiadasz z bzdury? Nie, to jest nie. Coś tu jest nie tak. To się nie zgadza. Ale prawą ręką jest praworęczny. Jeżeli go zadał od przodu, jest silną osobą. Jest silnym mężczyzną. Na razie mam tyle wniosków. Dobra, patrzymy dalej na nie. Coś przegapiłam jeszcze w tych moich oględzinach.
The throat, there is. The ground is muddy.
Aha, ziemia błotnista. Poczekaj, bo coś istotnego. On coś dopisał. Na ziemi jest brudno. A ona ma... porzucona na ziemię ofiara nie broniła się. Nie broniła się, nie? Zemdlała prawdopodobnie. Została zabita w pozycji stojącej, prawdopodobnie od razu w pozycji stojącej i jest mniej więcej wzrostu ofiary. A jednak
We
tak.
have two possibilities. The first is that Liz Stride's killer and the attacker, seen by Schwartz, were one and the same man. The second is that Liz Stride meets a client. After some discussion, they head towards Dutfield's yard to do their business. As soon as they arrive, the attacker appears while his accomplice keeps watch. Schwartz's arrival dissuades the two men from lingering. They leave the area and leave Liz Stride in a tense state, but glad to have kept her client. He will be her murderer. Both hypotheses are possible, but an incongruous detail will serve to corroborate one of them. An incongruous detail that we were able to establish regarding the Hanbury Street murder. Which one would that be, Watson? Look at the victim carefully, Watson, and tell me the link between the murder of Liz Stride and those of Nichols and Chapman.
Ale ty teraz... Watsonem patrzam, na nią mam patrzeć.
No, that's not it.
A jakie było pytanie?
No, that's not it.
The packet of pastels, Holmes?
The bag of pastels. Indeed, Watson. If this woman had to defend herself against an attacker, why would she have held onto this bag in her hand? It didn't fall because this woman's hand tensed at the moment when she fell to the ground. Therefore, Watson, we know the killer distracted his victim's attention by making them take something out of their pockets. Why didn't he slit her throat like the others? He must have feared a struggle with this strong-willed woman. Why didn't he eviscerate her? Because Louis Diemschutz arrived.
Do you think the Whitechapel killer is behind this murder, Holmes?
Yes, and now this murder has been linked to its rightful perpetrator, it will take on deeper meaning when we have examined the facts from that night. Let's go to Mitre Square, where Catherine Eddowes was killed. And make haste, Watson, as we have another murder to commit in 40 minutes. Here we are, Watson, Mitre Square. It took us a mere 20 minutes to get here. If the killer left Dutfield's yard around 1 o'clock, as we assume, he would have arrived here at around 1:20 a.m. We know that Catherine Eddowes' body was discovered at 1:44 a.m. Catherine was released from prison around 1 o'clock, but we have no information as to what she could have been doing until her death. This place has 3 possible ways out. Let's see where they lead.
Okay.
As a precaution, I brought an old map of the area with me. It will help us get our bearings.
Let's hurry, Holmes. This neighborhood makes me ill at ease.
Ciebie? O Jezu. No świetnie. Mamy to synagoga, zoolog Świętego Jamesa, klub Imperial, Metro Square. Dobra, steruję Sherlockiem Holmesem steruję. Co robimy jako Holmes tutaj w tym momencie? Poczekaj, niech on się szybciej przemieszcza. Ciemno jak, wiesz co, bardzo.
This is Mitre Street, from where Watkins, the constable who found the body, came. I have no reason to go that way.
Dobra. To już gdzie możemy
Watson,
pójść?
we are now in the exact spot where poor Eddowes tragically ended her days.
This spot is very dark, Holmes.
That is probably why our murderer chose it. Let's see, we'll need a lantern.
A skąd ci wyczaruje latarnię, człowieku? To w ogóle się wy wybieracie takie miejsca bez żadnego ekwipunku?
This dark and narrow passage leads to St. James's Place. Nothing of interest here.
No dobra, tam jest ciekawego. A ty co leziesz za mną? Zorganizuj sobie jakoś życie. Latarni a
Church Passage. It must be opposite the Imperial Club at 16 to 17 Duke Street. Let's go to the end of this lane, Watson.
więcej?
Hello, you must be Abraham Solomonovich, am I right?
Yes, that's me. But I know you. You brought a lad to my place to take care of a cat, and I loaned you my mask.
That's me. May I present?
Dr. Watson, of course. Delighted. And you? I have known for a few days that you are a detective by the name of Sherlock Holmes. Is that so?
You don't miss a thing, do you? It was the children who gave me away. Am I right?
They didn't want to, but I gained their confidence by offering them a small comb and half a cake.
They made a good deal out of it, so I don't blame them. However, I must request, as a personal favour, that you do not reveal my identity.
You have my word. Curiosity is just killing me, as you may have guessed. Would it be breaking an oath to confide in me the nature of the investigation that you are leading?
Does this spot where we are now in Mitre Square mean anything to you?
A demon lives in this city, Mr. Holmes. These unmentionable acts degrade the human race and put the Jewish community in terrible danger.
Lots of rumours are circulating, but they are but rumours. I see you're leaving the Imperial Club. It's a stone's throw away from Mitre Square, and the 2 recent murders were most probably discussed in there. Do you know if anyone from the club saw or heard anything that night?
Yes, Mr. Holmes. That night, 3 members of our club saw a woman talking to a man at the very spot where we are standing, a few minutes before the body was found, at the end of this passage. Fantastic, Holmes.
Calm yourself, Watson. There is nothing at the moment to suggest it was the victim. Can we meet these members?
I am afraid that won't be possible. As soon as the police heard the evidence of these men, they were sworn to silence.
I understand.
But you are working for the good, and I must tell you what I know. One of the 3 men, my friend Joseph, left that night with 2 other members of the Imperial Club, Harry and another Joseph. It was around 1:35 a.m., perhaps a bit earlier. When Joseph, not my friend, but the other, the Aldgate butcher, exited, he saw a man and a woman in discussion at this very spot where we are.
These men must have been about 16 feet away from the couple.
That's about right. So Joseph, the butcher, said to the other 2, while pointing at the couple, "Look, I don't like going home alone when I see this kind of people here." My friend Joseph looked at them without noticing anything strange and didn't understand what he meant. They had the look of 2 rather unkempt people, but no more than that.
After the murder, did these 3 men tell the police what they had seen?
Not quite. Harry stated that he hadn't seen the couple. As for Joseph, the butcher, even though he was the one who commented on them and pointed them out, said that he couldn't remember anything except that the man was about 3 inches taller than the woman, who was 5 feet tall, no more. My friend Joseph, on the other hand, did his best to cooperate with the police.
And what did your friend Joseph say? What did this man and woman look like?
The man must have been 30 years old, about 5'7", light complexion, and a fair moustache. He wore a loose, dark jacket, a grey cap, and a red scarf around his neck. But he said that he only saw him for a brief instant, and it would be impossible to recognize him.
And the woman?
He only saw her from behind. She had her hand on the man's stomach and seemed to be pushing him. He said that he remembered that she was small, was wearing a black jacket and a black bonnet. After his testimony, The police took him to see the clothing of the deceased, and Joseph said that they looked identical to those of the woman he had seen. Like I already said, he only glanced at the two, as he was headed with the others in the direction of Aldgate.
One final question. The Imperial Club is a Jewish club, isn't that correct?
Indeed.
Thank you for your help, Mr. Solomonovich.
Bah, it was nothing. We must at all cost prevent this demon from striking again. And the police seem to have some difficulty in doing that. I wish you the best of luck, Mr. Holmes.
No, dziękuję
Let's
bardzo.
see. We'll need a lantern. This building is the Great Synagogue of London. Closed.
Och, closed. Dobra, przepraszam, nie mamy latarni. Skąd mam wyczarować latarnię? Ej, stój.
Let's see. We'll need a lantern.
Dobra, szukamy latarni.
Nothing of interest
Ja
here.
latarni szukam. Nie wiem, komuś trzeba zająć latarnię. Może jakiś constable nam pożyczy.
I have no reason to go that way.
To się tu wrócę po prostu. No teraz powie, że też nie ma reason, to normalnie go pogryzę. No tutaj cię ma nie było.
Nothing of interest here.
Patrz, nic nie ma ciekawego. Cóż za niespodziewajka. Moment. Nie no, musi kotka pogłaskać. O! Jest latarnię, mam. Ha? Mam. Zobacz. I co teraz? Tam pójdziemy. Czy tam już nie trzeba? Poczekaj. Ty masz latarnię, a masz ją... W ten sposób chciałam.
I have no reason to go that way.
Aha, to poczekaj, to musimy na tamtym placu to... A to jak? No na tym placu był... Gdzieś tu miała... Gdzie ona właśnie została zabita, ta bidaczka? To już nie mogę, nie?
Nothing of interest
No dobra,
here.
czyli tam wracamy. Czyli nam tylko po to przyjść tutaj. No to ja jestem obrażona trochę. Teraz tam wracamy. Tam ona skonała, tak? No bo tu kilka było tych morderstw. Ja się gubię po prostu, o kim jest mowa i kto, co. Dobra. Tutaj nie.
Now then, we will need a lantern.
No mamy.
Now then, we will need a
No
lantern.
mamy latarnię. No mamy. Zobacz. Facet.
Now then, we will need a
Jak
lantern.
się używało przedmiotów?
Now then, we will need a lantern. Take the lamp, Watson.
Aha. Boże, ja myślałam, że on ją sam podpala. Nie wierzę.
The head is turned towards the left. The murderer must have been on the right side of his victim. Let's look at her from the front.
Aha.
The eyelids were cut off.
O. Dobra, odcięte powieki. Muszę to teraz, w sensie, ja bym wolała najpierw sprawdzić wszystko i potem sobie...
The nose was cut.
Super. W ogóle jelita wyciągnięte i no...
There is but one wound, Watson. It goes from the left side and descends in a slight oblique towards the right side.
Czyli od tyłu. Dobra, tu więcej nic nie ma. A w sensie tu niżej, bo tu jest jeszcze
Do these
coś.
objects spread out by the victim remind us of anything, Watson? A thimble is located right beside one of the victim's hands, just like Chapman's sachet of pills and Stride's pastils.
To jest guzik?
Do these objects spread out by the victim remind us of
Tak, tam
anything,
było
Watson?
w guzikach.
The main incision goes from the sternum all the way down to the groin. The murderer opened this abdomen as if it were an animal carcass. A kidney was removed. The uterus was removed. Part of this apron is missing. We will follow up on that shortly. These intestines were pulled out altogether to grant access to the abdomen. The head is turned towards the left. The murderer must have been on the right side of his victim. Let's look at her from the front.
Ja już patrzyłam na nią od przodu, to nie jest zacny widok, nie chcę.
The head is turned towards the left.
Dobra, to
The
jest to
murderer
samo
must have been on
powtarzam,
the
ale ja
right
już
side of his
zobaczyłam
victim.
chyba wszystko.
Let's look at her from the front.
Ja nie chcę na nią patrzeć od frontu. To wszystko już zostało zobaczone prawdopodobnie.
The cheeks were slashed to make them
A jeszcze
thinner.
to. Dobra, chyba wszystko. Już chodźmy stąd, bo mi niedobrze. Chyba wszystko. Bo jest zielone, nic się nie pojawi nowego. O.
The inside of the thighs is clean. Once again, there were no sexual relations between the victim and her murderer.
No, skończyliśmy, super.
My goodness, Holmes, it was a slaughter.
Understand, Watson, that our killer had neither the time nor the conditions to bother with the niceties. He had no more than 7 or 8 minutes at most to kill the woman, open her up, and all the while in total darkness.
Czy ja wyczuwam współczucie?
Holmes, it's a woman, a poor victim you're talking about.
Consider all the time this man lost and the risks that he actually took by cutting the victim's face and the lower abdomen in around 20 precise spots, especially the lungs and the liver. These attacks, which I considered gratuitous, are in fact nothing of the sort and have as much sense as the removal of the organs. Watson, we must now consult our timescale. We began in Dutfield's yard, but this time we will try to recreate the actions of certain people, in this case those of the 2 policemen.
Ojej, poczekaj. Pierwsza 30 to tu.
1:30 a.m. PC Watkins didn't see the corpse while on his rounds. If
Moment.
PC Watkins did his rounds properly, and there is no reason to doubt this was the case, as he discovered the corpse a quarter of an hour later, the murder hadn't yet taken place, and there was no one in Mitre Square, unless they were hidden among the shadows. Enter Mitre Square via Mitre Street, Watson, and stop and try to see me with the lantern. I will be where poor Edow's corpse was.
Ale ja tam chciałam jeszcze coś umieścić. Od Mitre Square, kurde, wiesz co, żebym ja jeszcze widziała... Poczekaj, chyba muszę od tej strony przyjść. A może szybciej? To jest poczekaj. To odtąd. Mam wejść? Weszłam, wchodzę, prawie weszłam. Poczekaj, muszę trzymać latarnię. Tak, poczekaj. Halo. Widzę cię. Holmes, widzę cię. Poczekaj, jak mogę to... Poczekaj, może mam... Nie wiem, czy gra to trybi. Mam od tej strony wejść. Teraz to można zajrzeć, jak mam latarnię.
I have no reason to go that
No
way.
wiem, chciałam zobaczyć to w świetle po prostu. Dobra. No i cię widzę. Aha. Nie wiem. Dobra, wchodzę.
I see you, Holmes.
Ale...
Perfect, Watson. Let's look at our timeline, Watson.
No nie, poczekaj, bo to dużo rzeczy się wydarzyło. Mam to wstawić tu. 42. Oj.
1:42 a.m. PC Harvey arrives in Mitre Square. It should be noted, Watson, that the constable didn't enter Mitre Square. He could not have seen the corpse lying on the ground. But would he have been able to see a man sitting or standing? Go to the church passage entrance, then come back and try to see me while holding your lantern. I will stay at the spot where the victim was discovered.
Dobra, church passage. Poczekaj. To jest Mitre Square, to co przyszliśmy. Teraz mamy z tego przyjść. Tak, to jest to? Church Passage? Tak. Sand Passage, dobra, teraz tu i mamy z tej strony wejść i mamy podejść. Halo. No.
I see you, Holmes.
You had to proceed into the square in order to see me, something Harvey didn't do. It is possible that the killer was still there. 1:42 a.m. PC Harvey arrives at Mitre Square, but does not go in. The murderer may well have still been there.
No. To poczekaj. No moment. To, że ciało zostało odkryte, to za moment. Najpierw ja mam tu jeszcze do poukładania inne rzeczy. Czekaj, to jest pierwsza 30 w nocy. Morderstwo jeszcze się nie wydarzyło.
Very good, Watson. Thus we can categorically state that the murder had not yet occurred at 1:30.
No dobra, świetnie. I tu mamy pierwsza 35, czyli tu jeszcze była widziana, tak? Czekaj, tu...
1:35 a.m. A man and a woman are arguing at the entrance of church passage. The man came from Aldgate.
I tu mamy pierwsze 44, że zostało
1:44 a.m. The body is discovered. Let's put the murder of poor Eddowes on the timeline, Watson.
No to będzie między tym a tym.
1:35 and 1:42 a.m. The murder would appear to have taken place between these times, that is to say, within 7 minutes.
Agreed, Holmes. But does this really prove that our killer had the time to perpetrate these two murders?
Let's look at our timeline, Watson.
Ola Boga. To poczekaj. Przejście z Duffield Yard na Mitre Square zajmuje Sherlockowi Watsonowi 20 minut. A tutaj, poczekaj, tu jest morderstwo. No to spokojnie może zdążyć.
There, Watson. We are now certain that the murderer really had the time to commit these two murders.
Incredible!
Let's look at our deduction board, Watson.
Czyli wszystko? Deduction. Ojeju. Dobra, niech to się tu poukłada gdzieś chce, bo to się układa samo. Potem będziemy kminić dalej. To za wiele nie mamy. Przedmioty na pewno należały do kobiety. Przedmioty należały do ofiary. I wniosek jest, że morderca przeszukał ciało Eddowes. Tuż obok dłoni ofiary znaleziono naparstek, czyli morderca Eddowes włożył jej do ręki naparstek. I wątroba płuca, są niewielkie nacięcia, jedna nerka została usunięte, został odcięty nos, bla bla, że nie chcę tego czytać, wszystko wiadomo. Znał budowy ciała ludzkiego. Coś jeszcze? Ale poczekaj, bo tu chyba jest więcej takich wniosków, których jakby nie skończyłam. To jest zrobione. To jest zrobione jeszcze co? O, to jest jeszcze! No. I to. Rana na szyi zaczyna się po prawej stronie, jest lekko ukośna ku dołowi. Morderca był za ofiarą. Po prawej. Nie, to nie był. Był silny i błyskawiczny. Morderca jest nieco niższy. Rana jest powierzchowna, rana ma taki sam charakter jak w przypadku Stride. To bym tak zrobiła. Jest praworęczny. To nie wiem, nie oznaczyło mi na zielono, więc zabił w ten sam sposób co Stride i mamy wniosek, że zabiła to jedna osoba. I tutaj mamy rana cięta na środku, ciała biegnie od mostka w dół aż do krocza i mamy, że rozpłatał jej podbrzusze, jakby była zwierzęciem. Wycięto kawałek białego fartucha. Ciekawe, po co powycierał, czy jak? Przedmioty wokół, już nie pamiętam. Przedmioty wokół stóp ofiary stały starannie ułożone. Na to miał czas. Jest pedantem, jest wyrachowany, działa z premedytacją.
This spot is making me nauseous. Can we not head back, Holmes?
We certainly can't, Watson. We have one final point to address. Do you remember the piece of white apron that was missing just now? It was found just a few steps away from here, at the entrance of a building. That's where we must go.
No nie wierzę, Holmes, nienawidzę cię. To dokąd mam iść? Też Whitechapel. Ale moment, wróć. Dokąd?
This spot is making me nauseous. Can we not head back, Holmes?
We certainly can't, Watson. We have one final point to address. Do you remember the piece of white apron that was missing just now? It was found just a few steps away from here, at the entrance of a building. That's where we must go. Let's go!
Walton Street.
There's the spot, Watson. By night, Goulston Street is deathly silent, which will permit us to carry out a fair few experiments. Let's find the entrance where the piece of the victim's apron and the mysterious chalk message were found. Look at these signs, Watson. We are in the Jewish High Street. Look at these signs, Watson. We are in the Jewish High Street. Look at these signs, Watson. We are in the Jewish High Street.
Ale idź. No dobra, to co, ale co mamy tu zrobić właściwie? No, wiem, że tutaj kredą coś było napisane i zmyte.
I have no reason to go that way.
No dobra, to pójdziemy tędy. Nie? Wtedy się nie podoba panu, widzę. Tutaj coś? Tu nic. O, czekaj, to wygląda jakby było ruszalne. Nie? To nie jest ruszalne? Ale przecież to aż się prosi, żeby to wziąć. To na pewno jest ruszalne, tylko jeszcze o tym Holmes nie wie, że potrzebuje. Dobra, to pójdziemy gdzie indziej. Jak on to mi nie chce nic działać.
Look at these signs, Watson. We are in the
Dobra, wiem. Ale rusz. No co to jest taki targ tutaj? O.
There's the spot where the apron and the message were found by PC Long. Now, let's recreate the scene. Remember, Watson, it was raining that night. Find me something with which to mimic raindrops hitting this wall while I write something with my chalk.
The Jews are not the men that will be blamed for nothing. But what does it mean?
No...
Have you found something for us to pour water from, Watson?
Find a container and some water. Let me remind you that it's night time and the street is deserted.
Wodę mam. Tylko nie mam pojemnika żadnego. Zaraz coś skołuję.
I have no reason to go that way.
Zaraz znajdę. Wiadro jakieś, cokolwiek.
That may come in handy. Who knows?
Nie mam pojęcia, po co ci lina. Może się powiesimy, bo mam już dosyć tego faceta w cylindrze. No kurczę, naprawdę nie.
I have no reason to go that way.
Dobra, czyli wszystko ma się odbyć w tym miejscu. A gdzie było to, co ja mówiłam, że można to wziąć, ale Holmes tego nie chciał wziąć? Tu.
That may come in handy. Who knows?
Who knows? To co możemy ściągnąć z góry? No patrz. Holmes, ja się nie nadaję na twojego pomagiera, bo ty za duże mi stawiasz wymagania, a ja chyba nie umiem. No patrz. No to nie ma niczego, co mogę wykorzystać jako pojemnik. O, jednak mogę.
A watering can. That's what I need. But I can't reach it.
No spokojnie, mamy to. A mamy to z tym połączyć? Nie, możemy tego użyć. Poczekaj, połączyć? Tak.
A watering can.
No,
That's what I need.
Kurde.
But I can't reach it.
Dobra, już. No przecież masz. Może mamy... O. No żartujesz, Watson. Godności trochę, człowieku.
A watering can.
Ja
That's what I need.
Dobra, już cicho. Przestań marudzić. Wejdź po tym. Na górę. Go zamorduję za chwilę. Ja wiem, co chcę zrobić, ale Watson mi nie działa tak trzeba.
A watering can. That's what I need.
Tam! No zobacz, co masz w ręce. Człowieku! Z tym nie połączysz. No to ty tym.
But I can't reach it.
Dobra, chyba jest jeszcze za krótki ten kij może. To poczekaj, to może poszukamy jeszcze czegoś. Może jeszcze jedną skrzynkę mogę wziąć, żeby wyżej.
I have no reason to go that way.
Czy jest tutaj coś, co się odcina ewidentnie od otoczenia? Żeby to... O, mam.
An old wooden
O
pole. A
Bożenko.
merchant probably threw it out.
No. Do góry, tu. I teraz co, ja mam to połączyć. I pewnie związać. Zamorduję go. Mam. Jakiś ty bystry. Mam konewkę. I mogę ci teraz zasymulować opady deszczu. Co ty na to, Holmes?
Water.
Łota, no kurde, miał to w ręce przed chwilą, musiał to... No, zabiję. Mam, Holmes, masz, tu będę ci spłukiwać. Skąd? Mam.
Have you found something for us to pour water from, Watson?
Tak, no, mam. A ty oczywiście... Mam, proszę.
Yes, I have, Holmes.
Sterujesz Holmesem. I tutaj mamy spłukać, tylko że... No, masz.
If this message were written by the killer, then it would have been lying in this entrance for up to 35 minutes before being discovered. Let's find out in what state it must have been.
W jaki sposób to napadało po tym gzymsem?
This message could not have withstood an entire night in the rain. During the investigations carried out on the night of the double murder, PC Hulse inspected the entrances of this street around 2:20 a.m. and confirmed to have seen nothing out of the ordinary. At 2:55 a.m., 35 minutes later, PC Long found Catherine Edow's piece of apron and the message in chalk. This message would not have withstood a whole night in the rain, as had I continued to water it for a little longer, I would certainly have erased it. It was written, therefore, at the moment when the piece of apron was dumped. This substantiates PC Hulse's statement, which stated he had seen neither of these during his rounds. After its discovery, it was guarded and protected from the rain, which was subsiding, which explains why it was still legible when it was erased at 5:30. My dear Watson, when you met P.C. Smith on his rounds in the street, where was he? On the pavement or in the middle of the road?
In the middle of the road, Holmes, without a shadow of a doubt.
Good. You will go down the street with your lantern as if you were a policeman on patrol, using Smith's position as a guide. As soon as you see the entrance where I used the watering can, tell me if you see anything.
Dobra, latarnie. Ma. Dobra, no to teraz idę. Ale w którą stronę mam się rozglądać teraz? Gdzie to, po której stronie to było? Bo mnie rzuciło w drugą stronę, teraz nie wiem, gdzie jestem.
I have no reason to go that way.
Wiem, ustawiamy się. Ale idź. Kurde, gdzie to było? Tutaj zaraz, nie? Czekaj, źle poszłam, bo to było jakby... Tu, nie? Nie, tu. Poczekaj, jak szedł tędy.
I have no reason to go that way.
No tutaj i zobacz. No.
No, you aren't in the right spot with the lamp, Watson.
There, Holmes. From here, I can see something written.
Ja
Can
tam
you
się
read
widzę.
it?
No,
Do you see the white rag, Watson?
I see something on the ground, but I'm not sure if it's what you were talking about.
PC Long, who found the piece of apron, was examining the interior of the entrances, and yet nobody would have predicted that this piece of material would be discovered on the very night of the murder by a policeman on patrol.
What are you trying to get at, Holmes?
Let's look at this message on the wall, Watson. The Jews are not the men who shall be blamed for nothing. In other words, the Jews were possibly blamed for nothing, but that will no longer be the case. Reading this message naturally begs one question. What would that be, Watson?
Why?
Indeed, Watson, why? For what reason would one have the right to blame the Jews in the future? Remember, Lestrade was killed near a club for socialist Jews, Edow's not far from a synagogue and the Imperial Club, and finally, this piece of apron dropped here. This building is occupied by Jewish families. The killer really did go out of his way to incriminate the Jews living in the area.
It's a bit obvious, Holmes.
Yes, but with the rumours, Watson, the author of this message would have received a response to his strategy.
You are right, Holmes. So perhaps it's a good thing this message was erased.
Whoever took the decision to do this is a man of great wisdom and courage. Let's return to Baker Street, Watson. I have some pipes to smoke to help me think more clearly.
I zarobić raka
Let's
płuc.
go back to Baker Street. Home, sweet home.
Dobra, już wracamy. Ale w następnym odcinku. Tak więc to tyle na dziś. Trochę było łażenia, trochę śledztwa, trochę rozmów, trochę zagadek, trochę zagubienia. I tutaj skończymy ten odcinek. Dziękuję za uwagę. Do usłyszenia. Pa, pa. Tak, idziemy wypalić parę fajek. Rak płód jest wymyślony.